How's it going, folks? I'm Matthew. This is Lemora's Cards, and today we're taking a look at the MMS number 3 X L7 cEDH tournament. I swear these event names are getting crazier every freaking time. This is a 64-player tournament that happened just this past weekend. I really want to look at Command Fest Shanghai, but I cannot find those deck lists anywhere. If you have a lead to them, please let me know. I'll gladly cover it. But this is a pretty interesting tournament, so I thought I'd cover this one. If you enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe. Consider supporting me over on Patreon like these amazing patrons did. I think I'm going to start putting some exclusive content on over there. I'm going to be doing some new types of stuff over the next month, getting lots of behind the scenes footage and maybe doing like some exclusive sort of write-ups, things like that, deck breakdowns over on there. So if you're interested in that, let me know. But I think with all that being said, we can go ahead and hop into it. Use the link in the description below to download Whatnot, and you'll get $15 to use to buy Magic singles, sealed product, get anything that you want really. There's no limits. You just get $15 on the account for free just for signing up. Use the link in the description below. Give Whatnot a try. So first, the meta breakdown. This wasn't a giant event. It did seem to have a pretty decent variety of lists. So we had 4 Tymna Kraums. That's pretty reasonable for a 64-player event. 3 Malcolm Tymnas, not the most popular deck. 3 Rograkh, 3 Najeela. Like really just 3 ofs maxing out of popular decks, and then lots of different things kind of showing up. Really not a lot to say about this meta breakdown other than there's a decent bit of variety here, seeing 40 decks at a 64-player event. First up, we've got 2 little guys doing their best, 8 out of 10. Rograkh. Tevesh is a staple. We're on the Cloud of Fairies and Devoted Druid, so for dedicated combo slots. So the Cloud of Fairies can kind of be a ritual in this Cradle deck. And we are on the Blank Goblin, which has been kind of iffy because the deck can struggle to use red mana, but, oh, I was going to say, but if you're on Etali, it's a little bit better. But this isn't even, unless this is just submitted wrong, this isn't even the Etali this deck usually runs. This is just Etali Primal Storm, which does have its own sort of benefit of like not being the scariest clone target in the universe, which other Etali has. Okay, that's interesting. We'll work our way down there. New card Polywog Prodigy showing up. I'm curious how often this thing will evolve. I mean, we do run a decent amount of like 2/2s, things like that, but we don't have one in the zone that evolves it because it is a 1/3. Thrasios doesn't evolve it. You do have to get something else into play. We're on the Baron and Teamer Sabertooth. No Lily Pad Mentor, I think is what it's called. I keep forgetting that card name. Then we see a lot of these stapley cards, the ETB tutors. Consphinx as sort of like a payoff for your mana, which I think is pretty good in the list when I played it. And then a Primal Storm Etali, really interesting choice there. It is more of like a value engine. I don't think we're going to be running any haste enablers that I know of. Okay, let's see. Also no Displacer Kit in here, notably. Sorceries, tutors in a wheel. These are about what we expect here. Sometimes you'll see people double up on the wheel. So, I mean, this is pretty standard. Instance, looks like the count is low, but maybe I'm goofing. Both the forces. Maybe it's not. Maybe I am just goofing. We've got the Bolt, Chain of Vapor. Pretty notable. We're on the blue flare and not the red flare. I do think blue flare is pretty good in this deck, but I do feel like Flare of Duplication is really good in this deck. A little surprised not to see that in a Rograkh deck. This is the Roger deck where your Roger is least pressured compared to like Rograkh. Artifacts, bunch of mana. We are in the Candelabra for our nonsense with Cradle, as well as Expedition Map for our lands package. Cloudstone Curio, Basalt, different combo pieces we run. Machine God's Effigy to go infinite with Devoted Druid. Fairly standard there. We are on the Cursed Mirror, which is a pretty good option. Another thing we can tutor for with Trophy Mage. Enchantment's pretty standard too, though we are on the Breach. This is like a value Breach version. I've seen a couple of these pop up where we just run Breach because it's a pretty good card. Fuel the Graveyard with 6 a little bit. You know, we got the wheel. We have enough mana to make Breach like a pretty good upgrade to something like a Regrowth. Then we're on the 28 lands. No Talon Gates, though we are on Shifting Woodlands. Interesting, we're on a basic forest and island, but not Earthcraft. Kind of feels like maybe they dropped the Earthcraft and didn't update the mana base. Honestly, non-basics are very unpunished right now. We're far away from the Archon of Emeria days, so I don't think you actually really get rewarded for double basics in your 3-color deck. I think with no Earthcraft, you don't want to run this. Cool looking Rograkh list. Curious how the Etali played out. I don't know, maybe that one's the truth. Next up, we got Pigeon on Nadu. Bird. If you've been watching this, you know there's a few flavors of Nadu. It looks like we're not on the lands package. No Quirion, Ashaya, none of that. We are on the tap untappers, Apheto Alchemist and Seeker of Skybreak. Nice little alliterative untapper boys. Polywog Prodigy seems like a pretty natural fit into a deck that plays a lot of creatures. There are not a lot of big ones. Nothing especially spicy here. We are on the Endurance. No Thassa's Oracle. Looking pretty lean and clean in the creature package. Just 3 tutors. No Transmute, no Fabricates, no Artifact tutor here. Instant. So you know how they rock. Lots and lots of interaction. They're on both the the Sea King's Blessing and the Sylvan Paradise. So they are doing the mass target effects. Tameo Safekeeping even. We're on the Misdirection, no Commandeer, Force of Vigor. So lots of pitch spells, free stuff like Court of Calling should be free a lot of times at least. Into the Flood Maw, nice new option to bounce something, though it can't hit your own thing. Will definitely come up that you want to in a Nadu deck specifically. Artifacts, just fast mana, no rocks, and then of course our free targeters, Shuko, Greaves, and Umbral Mantle. Enchantments, pretty lean here too, Rhystic Mystic, and then the copy artifact. And then lands from 32, notable inclusions, Dryad Arbor, Field of the Dead, or Okina as a targeter, Talongate. Pretty standard-ish, I feel, for a Nadu list. This is kind of what I feel like the least cutesy Nadus look like that aren't trying packages that kind of rely on each other. This is just do the thing, control plan, cast spells, get to the point where I'm unstoppable, have enough untappers to have like a decent engine until I get to the truly broken stuff that Nadu gets to do. Najeela brings all the boys to the yard. A little heavier on the creatures, but it's not like the beat down Najeela. We do see another deck running Polywog Prodigy, might be a good include here. And then kind of the stapley stuff you expect, the best dorks, things like Ranger Captain, Derevi, Grand Abolisher, sorceries, very 5-color good stuff other than Get Probe and Green Sun Zenith. Green Sun Zenith does have pretty decent amount of targets with your dorks, your Tinderwall, Derevi, Samut, Kutzel, Instant, Summoner's Pact, Swords, lots of interaction, blah, blah, blah. We are on the Ad Nauseam. We've got Brain Freeze for our Breach, Chain Impact. Pretty standard. Artifacts, mana, Wish Claw, and a One Ring. Enchantments, we are doing Chthonian Nightmare, which we can loop with Najeela. We get infinite treasures, and then we can go crazy. Mystic Rhystic, Breach, and then we are seeing Copy Artifact. Again, kind of creep its way into those high color piles. God, my nose gets so itchy when I record. 27 lands. Looks like a 5-color Najeela mana base. Fairly standard, just with like a couple updates with like the Copy Artifact, Chthonian Nightmare. Pretty traditional current Najeela build. They're not all on One Ring. Some are on like Necro. They're really stretching their mana base for it. Then we've got a Rograkh, 7 creatures, kind of the old 6 we used to run in Valley Floodcaller. Looks like we are on both the Final Fortune effects, the 3 wheels, the Get Probe still. No, nothing QQT yet, other than the Floodcaller is a new edition, which I don't think is QT. I think that's just a good card. Daze, Fear, Swat, Flare, all the broken Rograkh cards. Artifacts, anything wild here. We are on the Apple of Eden, not on Bolas' Citadel. Apple of Eden, it's hard to say where this card is going to land still, because it's like, I'm still seeing it in a couple lists from people, but I feel like in like a month or two, we're going to know. Like maybe post-invitational even, we'll know what's the deal here. And then we are on the Leyline of Anticipation, tripling up on those flash effects between this, Born, and the Otter. And then the staple 5 enchantments that you expect to see. I've play tested it, but I still haven't got to put it into play. It's shown up. It has a little bit of a tournament reputation at this point already, so don't sleep on it. And then we are down to the 23 lands, which has kind of become standard. We're on the Raucous Theater, not on the Undercity Sewers. Then we're looking at Sisay, Planeswalker Sisay. You got the staple ones plus Oko as a flex slot. Creatures, bunch of dorks, Bloom Tinder, Felia, which has come like a decent option. Very much feels like the Sisay creature package is like super solidified right now. This is just what I expect to see almost every time. At this point, it's like always Sky Turtle, always Urtai, always Sakashima as these creature slots. Literally nothing surprising here at all. We're not seeing like the Lavinia that might pop up. Felia could go out for that slot. It depends. Felia's like better at dealing with things like Op Agent or other hate pieces that might be in play because you get to exile them till end of turn. Got the 3 tutors, no Neoform, no Diabolic Intent. Instants, we are on decent bit of interaction. Offer, Fluster, Brainstorm, these ones. Got the Snap. We're on the Abrupt Decay. Oh yeah, nothing too surprising here either. Nothing too surprising in the artifacts. We're on Cauldron, Relic, Wondering. Wish Claw Talisman doesn't always show up. Enchantments, we are a Deafening Silence build, and we got the Cultist, Blind Obedience. So rocking a lot of the enchantments you see other than Oath of Nissa, which can pop up. Be curious to know how Deafening Silence builds fare on average than the non-Deafening Silence ones. I currently feel like I really like Deafening Silence in Sisay, trying to deal with the decks that are faster than you. Then 29 lands, Cradle. Nothing too surprising there. Welcome to TopDeck.gg, your community's home for everything competitive Magic has to offer. Whether you're hosting an event, playing for a huge prize, or trying to advertise your store to thousands of players, we've got you covered. Using intuitive pairing software, playing Magic is a breeze. All your players have to do is sign up online, then scan the QR code in store. Give your competitors the gift of perfect information as their bracket updates in real time. Then, when the match is decided, our self-reporting software saves you time and leaves paper match slips in the past. Leave the heavy lifting to us so your community can sit back, relax, and have a great day of playing Magic. All right, so we've got Malcolm Tymna, Abandoned to Your Doom. So probably a Doomsday Shell. We're on to Fairy. So are we doing Kitten? We are. We're also doing Kitten. So new cards. Mockingbird, kind of a staple in any Esper, really even Azorius shell. Really good just to like copy your own Esper Sentinel even, but you know, copy a Dockside, copy a Thoracle, get it off Ranger Captain. I've talked about this enough. It's busted. Basim Ibn Ishak. This is 2 mana. When you cast a historic spell, draw a card. Can't be blocked this turn. Triggers only once each turn. When it deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on it. It's another way we can crack a Doomsday pile. That comes to mind. Or just a top deck tutor, whatever. Like we cast any of our commanders or an artifact with this in play, we get to draw a card. Curious how this thing plays out. Like, is it drawing a card a turn? I guess it's a little bit more than that on average, because like if you have Tymna in play, like it's definitely leaning into the Tymna plan, I feel like, because it's basically guaranteed to draw 2 cards a turn if you get to cast a historic thing. Polywog Prodigy showing back up. Again, we got the Talion that can trigger it, Shieldred. I mean, we're going pretty big with this list. We're leaning kind of heavy into like the big hitters at like the going over the top of other mid-range decks. Wandering Archaic, Con Sphinx, Hullbreaker Horror. We don't have a line in here for Hullbreaker Horror, but we have plenty of ways to just win the game or control the game with it. Pitch spells like Subtlety, taking advantage of our Tymna draws. Good cards in Malcolm decks like Kitesail Larcenist. This looks like a good Delny deck. You got a lot of things that you get to trigger twice. Just really leaning into the Malcolm Tymna plan. I like it. Sorceries. We are in the Doomsday. We'll see if we find a good clean pile. No Git Probe here. No Street Wraith. So none of that. So maybe we're just cracking it with Tymna, whatever. No Deluge. We are running Dam. Kind of prefer Deluge. Dam can be nice. This deck is so heavy on the Tymna plan with 21 creatures. You don't always want to overload, because even for 1, you can hit like a decent amount of your own stuff. So it makes sense that you might want that flexibility of the Dam just destroy target creature part of it, even though the total board wipe part is a little on the pricey side. Instance, we're on the Consult, Silence, we're on Spell Snare, Strixhaven. Oh yeah. This is a control gamer. Mana Drain, the Raven Charm, Poggers, 1 and a white, deal damage equal to twice the number of creatures you control a target creature, destroy target enchantment. Nah, that's actually good. That actually seems pretty good for what this deck's trying to do. Hits the graveyards, blows up enchantments, kills creatures, Fierce Force, all that good stuff on the Rollick. Bunch of rocks. Signet, One Ring, and Wishclaw. We're not on Ad Nauseam. Blood Chief's Ascension, yeah, we see this. I mean, when you see the Shieldred, you kind of expect this might be there too, that there's some kind of pressure on life totals thing. Almost surprised not to see Sarah Ascendant, to be honest. Being like Sarah Ascendant, Mockingbird, turn 1 to get 2 Sarah Ascendants, turn 2 Tymna, just beat the life out of some people. That's actually pretty hot. Blind of Venus to slow down those faster decks, Smothering Tithe, all that good stuff. Honestly, are we using our graveyard at all? Bro, let's just, let's run the Rest in Peace. Guess it kind of hurts with our meme bet. And could be awkward with Doomsday. And then 27 lands. We're on the Cavern of Souls. Takanuma, okay, as a nice little flex slot. I think underplayed. I think maybe a little underplayed as a channel land. One of my favorite decks to cover, that is Rog Tevesh. Let's see what we're doing here. Okay, I'm with everything that's happening here. We've got Stitcher Supplier. That enables the like Culling the Weak, Stitcher Supplier, Breach line. Usually that's what it's here for. Also just pretty good to sacrifice Tevesh. Loyal Apprentice does make us some material. We don't usually see that in non-Tymna decks. We honestly don't even really see it in Tymna decks, but if you're just trying to generate material, that's pretty nice. DRC, former staple of the format, just fallen by the wayside. Raids, I love in this kind of deck. Sack your Thralls, probably drawing 3 cards, making little dudes, making a little Loyal Apprentice, boom, sack it, draw 3, you know. Mayhem Devil, we're probably doing Chthonian Nightmare stuff is my guess, although also we can just take control of the board. We got dual cast your lines to win. Pinnacle Monk starts to be a free include once you start to throw in Hoarding Broodlord and Razaketh in your deck, because we're probably not playing Ad Nauseam. Broodlord, we're probably running Saw in Half and doing some Broodlord combo shenanigans. And we got Razaketh, probably leaning into the Reanimator part of the deck. We'll see. We don't get to do like the life death Razaketh stuff. This is going to be like pretty manual, but you know, you get Razaketh into play, you got some Thralls and a Roger lying around. You'll put a win together. It's not going to be that hard. Sorcery, so Faithless Looting. Oh yeah, we're digging through the deck here. The versions of this deck are usually like turbo stacks and then just straight up turbo. They have seen more mid-rangey options. So yeah, we do have the Reanimate, lots of the staple cards. Again, we're running an MDFC because we kind of get to. We're not worrying about Nas. Wheel, Yogg Will. So interesting includes Blasphemous Act. We are kind of looking to build up a board state, although, you know, and really we have 3 dedicated wipes, kind of a 4th-ish with Shatter Skull Smashing. Interesting in our deck that is like, you know, we're trying to build up stuff to sacrifice. We'll see how pivotal that is to the plan, but Obliterate. 8 mana, can't be countered, destroy all artifacts, creatures, and lands. The one thing this is really good with is Tevesh, because Tevesh will live. Enchantments will live too. We don't often have the best value enchantments in Rakdos. We'll see what we're rocking. But if you do this with Tevesh, he's not going to be that pressured, and you will just get to keep upticking him and hopefully put all the commanders into play and win the game somehow. You have the Twin Flame to go off and Molten Duplication to go off with Dual Caster. Interesting stuff. I don't expect to see this in the non-stacksy versions, but I don't think we're going to be running any of those like Godpharaoh statue, Trinisphere, that kind of stuff. Got Rograkh, Coleman Week. Lots of ritual removal like Tisba to Scratch, which is just Dismember. The Rograkh, of course, which is a free include. Again, we're not nosing, so we get to run Felder Profane. There's that Saw in Half, Flare Duplication. A little bit higher on the ritual effects. We do have big, dumb things to power out, like Obliterate and potentially even like a Razaketh or something. I'm with every part of what's happening here. Artifacts. So fast mana. We've got LED. We're probably breaching. We also have Yogwell. Vexing Bauble. It's not the biggest issue for our deck, I don't think. It's probably worth it. Curse Totem. We don't have any, right? Any activated ability. Wait, we're a Razaketh deck. No, you can't Curse Totem. Hold on now. I specifically requested to not do this. Curse Totem is definitely going to hurt decks other than us more, but honestly not really the best decks other than like Sisay. I guess Nadu in some board states. But then also it turns off our Razaketh. That's so cringe. I don't know. Maybe it's fine. Grinding Station, Cloudstone Curio to win. We can generate infinite mana very easily. We can't bounce Tevesh to draw our deck very easily. But we can like Mayhem Devil Loop, of course. Like infinite mana is still good. We're on the Ring. Enchantment. So yeah, we are on Chthonian Nightmare, like I said. Breach, the 2 reanimation pieces make a lot of sense. Then Leyline of the Void is wild. Just to rest in peace that doesn't hit us. Sometimes we get it for free. I'm a little surprised not to see Beseech the Mirror in this deck. I was going to say you can also free Beseech fodder. Probably should be on Beseech, I feel like. Free real estate, I guess. 26 lands. So on Crystal Vein, Ancient Tomb, City of Traders, and Phyrexian Tower. So a lot of soul land type effects. Also on the Talon Gate, Urza's Saga. We weren't doing... Oh, we do have Skull Clamp. Okay, I was going to say, we're not doing top or Citadel or any of that. Almost mid-rangey, I would say, when you're running Leyline of the Void and then like Obliterate. I mean, you do generate a ton of mana in this deck. Curious how this played out. Like how many Obliterates were cast in this tournament. I hope at least one. For lines with our Broodlord, we're usually getting Broodlord into play somehow. Usually the first step is then a Saw in Half. Saw in Half your Broodlord, probably convoking it. We're not on the Sacrifice or Burnt Offering. So we don't have like that into Peer into the Abyss. So it might be more manual than that. It could be from there. Like depending on what you're doing, you could like, you get 2 tutors once you Saw in Half. You could get like LED, Breach. Those are both from Exile. Cast LED, crack it, cast the Breach, escape LED, escape Saw in Half, and then get like Grinding Station or whatever else, like Praetor's Grasp, whatever. Okay, not being on Praetor's Grasp seems incorrect to me. I don't see a super clean line, but Hoarding Broodlord is just so busted when you get to do it with Saw in Half. You figure something out. Then another Sans blue deck with Mad Farm. Just good old Tymna Jeska bringing it back, baby. So we got the discard enablers like Insolent Neonate. We got the kind of Tymna focus plan with like Hope, Sarah Ascendant. Well, they're not procure another way to discard. Flamescroll Celebrant mostly played for the back of it, which is Revel in Silence. Still on the Boromir. On Delny, which I like in this kind of deck. Doubling up like DRC, Esper, Ragavan, Dockside. Seems good enough, and like you're in a more dedicated Tymna deck. So stapley stuff, we got the Mayhem Devil, Auriok Salvagers to do Bomberman combo with LED to go infinite. Any way that we can get infinite mana, we'll win the game with Jeska, ping everybody down. Also have Abdel Adrian, so we're probably doing the Abdel Animate Dead, Necromancy stuff to also go infinite, ping everybody to death. Myrel, another Grand Abolisher. Sorceries, fairly standard stuff for these colors other than Scheming Symmetry, which is pretty standard when you're in like this deck specifically. You know, you get to crack it with Tymna, try to win the game at that point. For on the final showdown, a card I've only seen a little bit of. Hate on opponent's creatures, stuff like that. Lightning Axe, which is a discard outlet that can't really be interrupted. Orm's Chant, we're going that deep on the silence effects. I like it. Tainted Pact, no Consult, Cabal Ret. We also didn't see a Praetor's Grasp here too, so kind of interesting. Usually these decks will often run it just to make their lives kind of easier, and it's just a pretty good card. We're on the Nas, bunch of mana, things like Portable Hole. We're not on the Goblin Engineer, Goblin Welder package, which has also been a thing that comes in and out of here. You might have seen like a Magda here as well if we were on Citadel, so I'm assuming we're not on that. You have another Vexing Bauble player. Cloudstone can help us go infinite. Curse Mirror, Grinding Station to help us win, Rock, stuff like that. One Ring, no Citadel. And then enchantments. We're on the Static Prison, which I like. I think it's still underplayed. It's just 1 mana to get rid of anything. Animate Dead, Necromancy to help us go off. Thonian Nightmare doesn't really do the Abdel thing, but does its own Doxastic Sorceress win the game thing. Tithe, Blind Obedience, Touch. Fairly standard for these colors. 23 lands. Very low land count. A lot of times this is to optimize for Citadel in what is often a mid-rangey-ish leaning deck. Interested how that's played, but I mean, it was played to success here, so... Next up, we got a Tivit, Teferi, Dothy. Creature package not looking too wild. We are on the Kitten, Teferi stuff. Other than that, Duplicate, no Mockingbird. Seems wrong to me, dude. Italian, Metamorph. We are on the Twister, no Windfall, Reshape, no Transmute Artifact. Normally would make me think, okay, budget list, but then when I see the most expensive card legal in our format next to it, then it's like, okay, probably not budget. Just no Transmute Artifact. We're on the Beseech, Mean Bet, no Diabolic Intent. I don't think you have to run it. Deluge is our 1 board wipe. Mana Interaction, that's what we love. We're on the Mana Drain, Muddle. We're not doing Intuition, which is fairly free include. We might be doing like Grafdigger's Cage, which can have tension with that, but just being able to do like Intuition, time sieve stuff is pretty nice. No Ad Nauseam. We are on the Cage, like I expected. A whole bunch of fast mana, of course. Curse Totem turns off our Dothy, I think, and Dauntless Dismantler. That's about it. On the Civ, One Ring, Wishclaw. Nothing too wild down there. Enchantments, yeah, this is about what I expect. Mystic Ristic, Touch, pretty nice. Use it on your own Tivit. Double up the ETB, use it on Problematic Permanent. Blind Obedience, slow everybody else down, because you feed Dockside like crazy. Tithe, Trouble in Pairs, nice for these Esper Shells. On the 28 lands, even on the Citadel, but nothing too wild in the mana base. So yeah, fairly clean Tivit list. A couple includes that I would expect to see, but that weren't here, but they're not mandatory must runs, I guess. Then we're looking at an Etali, big old 7 mana Etali. What have they got? I don't feel like they've got any new cards that I know of. So we're on just ways to produce a ton of mana, protect our stuff, right? Tenderwall, Destiny Spinner, Vexing Shusher, big old Mind Goblin, Dualcaster. I think Velociraptor's pretty hot. We for our food chain stuff. The big MDFCs are a pretty good upgrade for this deck because they're lands that are really good hits off of Etali. Disciple of Fraley specifically, really good hit. We are doing like the Jaxus and Rionia stuff. You don't always see these. I feel like you do most of the time now though. Hellkite Courser, when you just can't quite get 7 mana, you just sometimes 6 will do it. Molten, Heat Shimmer, and Twin Flame. About what I expect at this point. Wheels, ways to make mana, and tutor. That's what this deck does, right? Gotta get our Treasonous Ogre into play so we can get a easy turn 1, turn 2 Etali. Instance, Rending Volley I think is a must run. I really like seeing Pyrokinesis in this kind of deck. I feel like that would be a nice include. Delayed Blast Fireball is good too. But you really just got to prioritize there not being a Drannith Magistrate in play at any point. Flare of Duplication is really nice because being able to sacrifice your Etali is just comes in super clutch. It's just mandatory. You have to be able to do that. Artifacts, we're on the Conqueror's Flail. Another clone, of course, and Curse Mirror, Ring. No defense grid. Then hold up. No defense grid or Docin. If you don't believe in yourself, what do you believe in? Enchantments are on the Blood Moon. That's what you believe in. Just being a jerk. Food chain, survival, breach. We're not on LED, right? We are on LED. Do we have a combo? I mean, you don't really need to do much other than Breach LED, right? That'll probably get you there. Figure something else out. And then 28 lands because of our MDFCs. Runt Grove of the Burn Willows, Poggers, Yavimaya, Shifting Woodland. Nothing too wild. No Emergent Zone, which is a little awkward in this deck. It can come up during some Etali loop stuff that having an Emergent Zone to crack can actually be really, really clutch at giving a clean non-pass combo, but you probably figured out most time anyways. Then I think for the first one of the video, we're taking a look at a Tymna Kraum. The new standard 13 creatures, Mockingbird over Fimage. The rest is just what we expect. Mockingbird over Phyrexian Metamorph in this case, which I think I prefer. We are on the Reanimate and we're running Toxic Deluge as a wipe of our choice. And we're running Toxic Deluge as our wipe of choice. Instance, we're on the Consult. We're on Dispel, Into the Flood Maw, Miscast. This is Freedom Waffle Pilled. Path to Exile with Swords. Bunch of the other free stuff you expect. Of course, we're on Nas, Intuition, Brain Freeze, all that good stuff. Artifacts, Rocks, Wishclaw, no Ring. Enchantments. Yeah, this is super Freedom Waffle Pilled right here. Whose deck list is this? J-Cat? No Necropotence, notably, which has become a really big staple in Tymna Kraum. And then 27 lands, we are on the Cavern of Souls. We're also on the Forbidden Orchard, gross. And nothing else too wild there. Then we got another one. 13 creatures, although this time opting for Metamorph over Fimage. Sorceries, I think, are the exact same. Also on the Deluge. Offer, Dispel. Where's the miscast? There's no miscast. You missed it. You miscasted it. Into the Flood Moss still showing up here. Psych Rift. Pretty standard stuff. Artifacts. Other than wild artworks. Nothing too crazy. We were on the console, right? Yes. Okay. I got to double check now. People point out I missed the lack of a console. Like, that's such a spicy include. You made your deck worse. Come at me. We are on the Mox Amber. There wasn't a reanimate here, right? Yeah, no reanimate. Never mind. One change there. Enchantments. This is the ones you expect to see. Sometimes copy artifact also sneaking in, but this is the 5 stables you should expect to see on the 27 lands. No Cavern of Souls in this build. Then we make our way to our top 4 with Thrasios, Vial Smasher. Which brand of this deck are we looking at? We got the Invasion, Bunch O Dorks, Polywog Prodigy rearing its froggy head yet again. We are on the Docent, so someone who actually believes in themselves and their own ability to win. Storm Drake here, no Gilded Drake. Looking a little bit more mid-rangey, right? You got the Notion Thief. Flood Caller is a really nice option for this really good Necro list. I'm curious if we're on Dominance. We'll see. And we don't have to be, but we get to run so many Flash enablers and stuff. Got the Sabertooth to go infinite with Dockside, Hullbreaker Horror to go infinite with most things. Kinnan, maybe we're on Basalt. We don't necessarily have to be, though. I've seen them without it. Assault Monolith is a bad card. We're on Reanimate. Makes sense. We got a Hullbreaker Horror. We might be slightly more likely to be on a Tomb, but not necessarily. A whole bunch of tutors. I mean, looking like most of what a 5-color good stuff sorcery slot is, but you don't have Savine Track. Instance, we got the Consult, Pack, Offer, Veil, Abrupt Decay, Court of Calling, too. Interesting. Fire Covenant. Talked about this. I get that you're running 24 creatures. You don't want to Toxic Deluge your own board, but man, there was a Nadu in this top 16, bro. You do not want to cast Fire Covenant against the Nadu. Got the Born, of course. We're not on the Ad Nauseam. We are on the Ring. We are on the Basalt Monolith, and then a bunch of Mana Rocks. No Wishclaw Talisman. Thony Nightmare. No Underworld Breach either. That's a bold choice. So pretty much exclusively on creature-related win cons, right? Oracle Consult, Infinite Mana, draw the deck, beat people to death, stuff like that. No Breach. I feel like Breach is just too good in black decks. I don't know. Training Grounds to draw with Thrasios. No Necropotence either, which makes it really weird too, because so many of our win cons, like Valley Flood Caller, does not give creatures flash. So it's not like you can flash in a Dockside loop and win an instant speed. You have to flash in a non-creature. Like, it can just let you play at instant speed, which is nice. You don't have to use it to win the game. But in terms of being able to steal the game, if you're not running Underworld Breach, your ability to do that is definitely lessened. And then 28 lands, we are on the Cradle. Namo, nothing else too wild here. Now, this is one I don't think I've ever got to cover, and that is Xyris the Writhing Storm, which is a real, like, Elden Ring boss name. Opponent draws a card, you make a snake, other than their draw step. And then when it deals combat damage to a player, you and that player to draw that many cards. So, comes in, people draw engines, you make a 1/1, you smack somebody, you draw 3 cards, they draw 3 cards, you make 3 1/1s. Okay, so we got Tezzeret, so we like artifacts. Not that many creatures, a decent amount. So, like, Dorks, Polywog again, showing its face here. Nadu, curious how many ways we have to target that. Storm Drake. Polywog Prodigy showing up again. Agate Instigator, which is a new card off of Bloomburrow, which is 2 mana with 1 in red, with Offspring 1 in a red. Whenever another creature you control enters, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. So if you cast this for 4 mana, you basically get 2 Impact Tremors, where every creature you make deals 2 to each opponent. That will stack up very, very quickly. Perforos, another one of those effects, basically the same thing. Might be actually pretty relevant to activate its ability at some point in certain board states if you have a lot of creatures. Just buff all your dudes. Sorceries. Clearly there's an artifact we really, really want to play, right? We got the Transmute artifact. We got a Fabricate. Traditional-ish tutors. Winds of Change is really hot to make a whole bunch of 1/1s. You know, we're punishing draws, right? Even going as deep as Echo of Eons. And then Molten Psyche, 1 red. Each player shuffles a card from his or her hand, enters his or her library, then draws that many cards, which is the Winds of Change effect. And then it also has Metalcraft. If you control 3 or more artifacts, deals damage to each opponent equal to the cards that player's drawn this turn. So we can really put pressure on life totals by doing this, while we also have like some kind of Impact Tremors effect in play. Instance, lots of free stuff. Things like Into the Flood Maw, Dispel, Pongify, Noxious Revival, buying stuff back, Brain Freeze. So we are probably going to do the good old Underworld Breach combo. Mystic Reflection. Because Xyris isn't 1 or more, I'm pretty sure we don't, like, if we wheel, we don't get of the creature with Mystic Reflection, because it's the next time 1 or more. And there should be individual triggers off of each draw. So I don't think this works the way you really want it to, but it can be a good enough card still. Ghostfire Slice. Have not got to see this in game. I'm curious how often it's online. It's got to be probably a decent amount of time. Sinking Stupor, Intuition, Artifacts. For the big ones we might want to get, right? Because we got a lot of artifact tutors. So we just got Fast Mana, of course, and the One Ring. We got Skull Clamp. which we can use to draw 2 off of our little 1/1 dudes. Lightning Greaves, probably not the main thing we want to tutor for. We can haste enable them if that's relevant. Probably not. And then haste enable Xyris itself, make it protected. And then Phyrexian Altar, which just turns every time opponent draws a card, you make a mana and also do something else probably. That's gotta be pretty powerful in this list. Then enchantments. We are on the Breach, Impact Tremors, Goblin Bombardment, things you would expect to see, taking advantage of all our little dudes. Copy Artifacts sneaking its way in, Mystic Ristic, and then Clout of the Dominus. Hybrid is it? Enchant creature, as long as enchanted creature is blue, gets +1/+1 has Shroud. As long as it's red, it gets +1/+1 in haste. Basically another Lightning Greaves for our deck, but buffs our dude as well. Arena of Glory, nice land choice to haste enable our Xyris. Ballin's Tomb because we're ballin'. Shifting Woodland, pretty good with all the wheels that we're running. 3-Tree City, one of the few decks is going to get to run this, right? So we got the Cradle already, and then this card, when it enters, choose a creature type, 2-tap, choose a color, add an amount of mana of that color equal to the number of creatures you control of the chosen type. So if you got like 10 snakes in play, you spend 2, tap it. So you kind of spend 3, make 10 total mana. So it's kind of like netting you 7 mana. Really, really good on a land. One last Tymna Kraum for the road. 13 creatures. Here doing the same thing. Mockingbird with Metamorph, no Fimage. Sorceries. We got Deluge as our board wipe of choice. And we're on the Reanimate. Instant, Consult. Lots of Dispels. Swords and Path. A lot of very similar builds here. We don't have like Offer. We don't have Miscast. Pretty standard TNK stuff in the instance. Artifacts. Bunch of mana and Wishclaw Talisman. We are a Mamber build. And then again, we see the copy artifact, no Necropotence. We are a Cavern of Souls build. We basically had 3 pretty standard TNKs with just a couple swaps. You know, one opting for Necropotence over the copy artifact, a couple different changes in the instance and the interaction, stuff like that. And then a deck I surprisingly have covered already, pretty recently actually. Arcum Daggson takes down the tournament. Pretty hot, huh? So this commander turns an artifact creature into any non-creature artifact in your deck. You spend 1 mana, you get a little combat courier. You can flip that into Portal to Phyrexia, Chromatic Orrery, Godpharaoh statue, really busted stuff. So yeah, we run lots of incidentally kind of valuable or recursive or cheap, whatever, artifact creatures. Combat Courier, Crashing Drawbridge is really nice to give our Arcum Haste. Ethereum Sculptor, making our artifacts cheaper. We're a very, very artifact heavy deck. Cards like Imri showing up. Urza is going to be great here. Filigree Sages can do some wild combo-y stuff to net infinite mana pretty easily. Get through our deck, I think. We'll get down to the artifacts. Forensic Gadgeteer, that's a way to do that pretty quickly. You have an artifact that taps for 3. Filigree Sages makes, it's 1 cheaper. Pretty simple. Glaring Fleshraker is hot. When you cast a colorless spell, make a 0/1 Eldrazi spawn that has sack out of colorless. And then when a colorless creature enters, deal 1 damage to each opponent. So have this in play, cast Lotus Petal, trigger, make a spawn, deal 1 damage to my opponent, comes into play. If it makes all your 0 mana rocks mana positive, Mishra's Bauble makes mana now. And then Lotus Petal just doubles up, makes 2 mana. It's like a Dark Ritual. A lot of moving pieces in this kind of deck. So we have a bunch of artifact tutors and ways to refill. Transmute Artifact, Fabricate, Mist of Lorien to bounce some stuff. Might be decently likely to hit our own thing with this. Like this with Fleshraker on a bunch of your zeros is actually going to make you a ton of mana. Seagate Restoration, pretty free in a mono blue deck. Instance, Pact, Into the Flood Maw to bounce, Dramatic Reversal. I think we're an ISO Rev deck. Misdirection, Reality Shift. Lots of just the free, hey, I gotta survive as a blue deck spells that you might expect to see. Artifacts is where we get a lot of stuff. Lots of free mana. Got Grafdigger's Cage to lock people out. We do have the Isochron Scepter to go infinite with ISO and Dramatic Reversal. Sensei Stop, get us some selection. Probably some combos we can do with that as well. Salt Monolith can go infinite with our Forensic Gadgeteer. Makes that cost 1 less. Anytime we can go infinite. Also, Urza just wins us the game. We'll cast our entire library. No Time Twister, so we can't be doing any Twister loops, so we might not need to. We can also loop spells again with Tomb Trawler. Rings of Bright Hearth. Bang, 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 win the game. Lots of ways to make our artifacts cost less. Semblance Anvil. Simulacrum Synthesizer is going to get us a whole bunch of constructs. Clock of Omens, pretty famous in our format for comboing with artifact stuff, right? 1,000 Year Elixir is going to speed up our Arcum. And then, yeah, cards like Chromatic Orrery that tap for 5. We talked about the Filigree Sages. That gets infinite mana pretty easily. And then you can start drawing cards with it. So that wins the game pretty quickly. Portal to Phyrexia, big old way to take over the game. Mystic Forge, lots of our cards are that. They are colorless spells or artifacts. Corporal Orb shouldn't shut us down too much. What is our win con at the end? Oh yeah, it's pretty easy now actually. Glaring Fleshraker is just probably our cleanest way to win. We just loop any spell to loop any artifact. Pretty easy with Tomb Trawler for drawing cards too. Yeah, I mean, that wins. We also have Walking Ballista to win the game pretty easily too. Mirror Maid, Copy Artifact, these kind of clone effects becoming more and more popular. And then Mind Over Matter probably just straight up wins with our commander, on top of obviously winning with like the One Ring. Gets probably pretty close with Chromatic Orrery, but not necessarily. And then 26 lands, cards like Fomori Vault, which are nice for these sort of artifact decks. Hall of the Bandit Lord gives our commander haste. Inventor's Fair can tutor up something. Inkmoth Nexus creates an artifact creature. Mishra's Workshop, one of the few decks that can play it. Let me know down below what you think of this tournament. I think it was a pretty interesting showing. Yeah, we had 3 Tymna Kraums, whatever, but then it was just like a Sisay, a Rograkh, and you know, the rest is pretty interesting stuff. Arcum, Xyris. I really like getting to look at the Thras Vials, because they have a lot of options. Getting to see Jeska, Tymna, and Rog Tevesh with Obliterate in the list. I feel like we're in a little bit of a lull right now where there's not going to be too many wild big events until the Invitational happens, when the new season starts, and we know when people are earning points and things. Maybe that won't be the case. Again, I mentioned Command Fest Shanghai, which I just didn't get to cover, but let me know what you're looking forward to seeing me cover next. Interested in experimenting with all kinds of things. And I think with all that being said, thank you so much for watching, and go play cEDH. Have a good one, everybody.